So without further ado, let's dive straight into this big topic. And I have to say, it is a big topic, and there's lots of different and very strong opinions out there around this kind of an issue, this question of the Nephilim, the giants, the sons of God, whether the word giants should even have been used in the first place. Now, we've dealt with the topic of giants twice before on Creation Conversations, but we've never really delved down into the Hebrew and the Bible study side of things. We've looked at giant animals, we've looked at giant people, we've looked at Goliath and the sons of Anak and stuff like that, and that will certainly come into our discussions, but we're dealing a little more with the biblical side of things today. Now, I first came across this topic. I always thought it was one of those topics which we'd probably never get to a complete answer to, but I was convinced that it had something to do with angels and demons and all that kind of thing. And I remember being challenged by John, actually, about 6 or 7 years ago now, when I was first getting involved in with creation research. And really, I was preparing to move from part-time ministry into full-time ministry. I spent, it was getting on for three to 4 months with John, pretty much one-on-one. There was one little break in the middle where John had to disappear home and I was left on my own for a little bit, but pretty much 4 months one-on-one with John. We started in Australia, in Queensland. We travelled all the way down by car, right, 600 odd kilometres on a single road sometimes, all the way down to the south of Australia, down through Melbourne. We went and visited Craig in Tasmania and up to South Australia and up to the Red Centre. We went all over the place. And one of the things that we did during this sort of 3-4 months on the road together is every morning we'd sit down and have a Bible study. And one of these days, the topic of giants came up, and I said to John, well, of course, we probably don't know what it means, but it certainly has something to do with angels and demons, and it certainly has something to do with why God sent the flood. And John said to me, does it really? And I said, well, yes, it does. That's what it says. And he says, can you go and find where it says that the fallen angels and demons caused the flood? Now, I spent 3 or 4 hours digging through the Bible and I couldn't find it. And so then John challenged me and said, well, what about the sons of God and the fallen angels? And can you go and show me how we know that those are definitely angels? And again, I went and sat through the Bible and we dug through the Bible for a while and I couldn't come up with a conclusive answer. So instead I went back to John and I had to go with humility and say, all right, I give up. I can't quite get it. Can you help me, please? And so for the next 3 or 4 days, actually extended into quite a few weeks of Bible study, we were going, verse by verse through Genesis, and it was a great time. And I pray that one day we'll have the opportunity to do that again. And if you want a sneak peek at this kind of study, that's basically this idea of going verse by verse, is what Walking with Jesus through Genesis was actually based off. But we spent a good number of time starting to dig through the scriptures around this concept of the sons of God. Now, it's been a fascinating study, and it's something that I followed up with quite a lot since then, and we've been discussing things with John, and we're going to tell you about a little project that we've been working on as well, and we'll continue to work on greatly in a little bit. But I must admit, over the years that we've discussed this, the question that has always been in the back of my mind is, well, does this really matter? What's the big deal about this? Surely there's going to be different types of opinions. Well, one of the things that we're hoping to deal with today is this question of, why does this matter? Why is it important to start with Scripture and remove any preconceived conceptions or ideas about what sections of Scripture mean before we actually start to dig through it? So we're going to try and actually get to that as an ending point. We're starting with this challenge that John gave me a few years ago. We're going to move through studying the scriptures, and we're going to end with this challenge of, why does this topic actually matter? And in between, we're going to deal with everything like the sons of God and the giants and the Nephilim and the King James verses, so on and so forth. And we've even got a really fascinating little biology study in the middle as well from Diane about giants, and a little history study from Craig about the giants through scripture. So it should be a wonderfully fascinating delve through all things giant related. But we're going to